Mild spoilers ahead regarding the lore of the operator. Geraldine. Matus May Geraldine. Royal Detective Matus Geraldine, if you want to go off of what it says on her door. Whether she is or not, that's not for anyone to say, really. She's been at this job for months. She was this close to cracking open the Penguin Logistics case when a dame knocked at her door. She walks in, forte, with a head full of ginger hair and a smile on her face, southern drawl in her voice. Croissant. One hell of a name, but in this business, May was used to the unusual. She'd seen unspeakable things on the job. She paid the intelligence fee and began to listen to every last thing the dame said about her employer, Penguin Logistics. And of course it was all lies. Though a surprisingly reliable 4-star sniper pick, May isn't necessarily a good detective. She might not even be a detective. But, one thing I do know is that I had a lot of fun with that intro. Good evening, I'm Weasley, and today, in the 4th Operator Spotlight, I'm going to be covering the so-called Royal Detective working with Rhodes Island, the unreliable yet energetic May. Fact number 1. Penguin Logistics, despite appearances, is actually a food distribution company specializing in apple pie. Fact number 2. Penguin's Logistics is also an idol group, performing part-time courier jobs and services. Fact number 3. The boss of Penguin Logistics is actually a plushy toy. Fact number 4. Penguin Logistics rarely takes time off, but overtime pays incredibly generously. It's unclear how much of that information is actually something May believes, but each and every fact has been fed to May by the employees of Penguin Logistics, the group she's been investigating. Though these facts are, shall we say, dubiously truthful, there is one fact that May knows deep down. Fact number 5. There is no royal detective position within the Victorian government. To be fair, it's not just May that knows this. Most of Rhodes Island's higher-ups know it, to the point that she's remained on board purely thanks to Kelsey giving her the permission to act freely, provided she doesn't do anything to harm Rhodes Island. May's lie didn't even last very long, with her compromising her own cover story within her interview. Still, even if May isn't a detective, her family's full of them, and her love for detectives as a profession is 100% genuine. Maybe it's because of the upbringing she's had or all the cop movies she's watched, but regardless of how truthful May was during the interview process, there's one last fact that everyone at Rhodes Island knows. Fact number 6. May is legitimately, truly dedicated to pursuing and protecting the truth at all costs. In an archetype such as May's, it can be hard to stand out and break the mold. Specializing in single-target, anti-air, ranged physical damage, May is a 4-star Marksman Sniper. Whether you're farming skill summaries, taking down drones, whittling down enemies for your melee units, or even taking down high-value targets from a distance, Marksmen, or so-called anti-air snipers, are an important archetype to develop. Power grading for them is a little different from other archetypes too, with each one providing a clear and concise niche for the most part, even if some are better than others. But how does May fit into things? Honestly, surprisingly well. Even though most operators within the Marksman Sniper archetype possess a clear and defined niche, it's still an archetype with a high ceiling, thanks to Ash and Eksha existing. May manages to stand out from some of her peers, while still remaining simple to understand and easy to use. Perfect for new doctors, or for a lower hope investment option in integrated strategies. If you've ever found yourself trying to decide between a slow supporter like Orchid or a marksman sniper like Cruz, then congratulations, you've successfully found May's niche. And also Glaucus's, really, if you lean in the other direction, but that's a video for another time. May, though a marksman sniper, actually provides pretty good slow utility through her skills, while still doing her archetype's core job rather well thanks to her solid stats, and a talent that only further assists her work. If only it could assist her detective work. Though she functions quite similarly to Cruz at E0, May unlocks her second skill at E1, allowing her to further differentiate herself from other marksman snipers. This is done through S2 defining her own niche a little more through a longer duration sustained damage combat style, though it's not necessarily her better skill. In addition, she also unlocks her aforementioned talent, which, while simple, is still a help to her and synergizes nicely with her utility. As a 4-star, Mei doesn't gain an S3 or anything similar at E2, but rather new art and a raised stat ceiling along with masteries for her skills. We'll touch on those, don't worry. For now, in summary, Mei's quite a solid operator for her rarity, and quite a good replacement for early game sniper picks that can last well into the mid to late game, though she won't exactly tear up stages like her 6-star counterparts will. For the sake of this section, skill level 7 is assumed, as always. Acting as a sniper with slow utility, Mei's skills are what carve out the niche that she finds herself in, though I admittedly struggle to see how they'd provide much of a benefit to detective work. Mei's first skill, Paralyzing Shell, is best viewed as something of a variant upon the quintessential Marksman Sniper Offensive Recovery S1 formula. With an SP cost of 4, offensive recovery, and auto-trigger activation for a single attack, this skill boosts the damage of Mei's next shot to 170%, a sizable increase, while also slowing the struck target for 2 seconds. This skill is best used for a low-maintenance deployment, or for attack speed boosted stages. With it, Mei can output some steady DPS, provided she keeps finding enemies to charge it off of. How does it fare for mastery? While not faring poorly, S1 definitely tends to fall off outside of incredibly general use or integrated strategies, thanks to the latter mode's plethora of SP granting or attack speed boosting relics. At M3, the cost decreases from 4 to 3, allowing faster activation, while the damage increases to 200%. Throw on a slow duration increase, bumping it up to 2.5 seconds of the status, and you have a solid skill, though not necessarily one worth using outside of the previously stated circumstances, and not necessarily worth mastering as a result. Mei's second skill, Binding Shock, while not actually binding, contrary to the name, definitely functions as Mei's more burst-oriented skill, while also allowing her to stand apart from her 3-star competition, Cruise. I'll explain why they're competing later. Possessing automatic recovery, an SP cost of 24, and a duration of 27 seconds, this manually activated skill increases Mei's attack interval to 1.5, an attack every 1.5 seconds, while also boosting her attack by 90% and causing her attacks to slow enemies for 0.9 seconds. On top of that, each attack also possesses a 30% chance to stun the target for 1 second. While it perhaps requires a bit more planning to effectively utilize than her S1, the potential for Mei's S2 definitely has a higher ceiling in terms of what it can accomplish. Before you go throwing all your mastery materials at Mei, however, her S2's mastery gains might leave something to be desired. Though the attack boost climbs to 120%, and the slow and stun both see slight duration increases, slow to 1 second, stun to 1.2, it's not necessarily a great gain for the investment required, even if she is a 4-star. The attack interval remains the same, and burst damage is usually better provided by other operators, especially for the likes of Contingency Contract or other so-called endgame content. Still, if Mei's exactly what you need, don't let me discourage you. It's a solid skill, even if it's not an amazing one. Lastly, a simple explanation of Mei's simple talent. Victorian Agent grants Mei an additional 4% attack and attack speed at E1, climbing to 8% attack and attack speed at E2, max potential. There's nothing else to really be said here. It helps Mei do her job better without any real bells or whistles, even if she's not really a Victorian Agent after all. In the realm of synergy, if it falls under the label of SP battery, it'll probably benefit Mei, especially with her S1 equipped. The DPS from that skill can reach some pretty high levels, with the slow becoming near constant if it activates fast enough through either SP costs or heightened attack speed. On the topic of heightened attack speed though, you're going to want to keep AC pointed far away from Mei. She has one of the lowest defense stats of any sniper in the game, so she's most definitely not surviving that. On the other hand, if you do want to team kill Mei for whatever reason, first off, you're a monster. But secondly, yeah, Axe a good pick for that. As far as comparison goes, Mei's got two main competitors. Firstly, within her rarity, she's got Jessica to compete with. But when you look a rarity lower, you find her real competition, the 3-star Cruz. Let's see how they fare. Where Jessica falters against Mei, she unfortunately falters against most snipers, especially those of an equal or higher rarity to her. This is because of Jessica's niche, survivability. While not an inherently bad niche, it's not one particularly sought after for the archetype of a Marksman Sniper. After all, they attack from a range, and good deployment order can almost always prevent them from even taking a hit. Still, in those very rare situations where survivability or unorthodox deployments are needed, Jessica's S2 will allow her to long outlive Mei, though her damage will never keep up. Cruz, on the other hand, is often and understandably heralded as a sniper with a power grade well beyond her 3-star rarity. Make no mistake, this is 100% true. Cruz will, on average, output DPS a good bit higher than Mei's thanks to her skill and talent synergy, even though her talent relies heavily on RNG. However, all that said, Cruz loses out against Mei in two important areas: power ceiling and utility. Sure, Cruz offers a lot in terms of damage, but her only utility is being cheap to develop or deploy, which is, in itself, an effect of the 3-star rarity that handicaps her so, limiting her max level to E1 level 55. Even still though, Cruz is an option to consider. She's a straightforward, effective sniper, especially for her rarity, and is worth considering over or taking alongside Mei for early to mid-game stages. While pure damage is usually quite effective, sometimes you need an option with a bit of utility thrown on top, and Mei is exactly that for Marksman Snipers. Whether she's slowing down enemies or killing them outright, this multi-role operator will certainly get the job done. Just keep her out of the line of fire, and don't let her find out anything about Penguin logistics. Even if, really, there's not much she could do with that information after all. Hey, thanks for watching. Obviously, with a game as big as Arknights is, I'm not the first person to do this sort of content. Even Kjostin himself has. Still, even with the other content creators pursuing this route, I still have people who choose to watch me, and that honestly warms my heart. Thank you guys for that. This video took a little longer to get out than usual, thanks to virtually everyone in my house getting sick at once, so that was a little bit of a nightmare to deal with, but we're through it, and I should be back to making content. Big thanks to my script reviewers and everyone who helps me with these videos, as always. And once again, big thank you to Isaac Wolf. His tracks help provide me with something to break up other copyright-free tracks, and they're always a treat to listen to. Go give his stuff a listen. The last two ops have been fairly low-key, so what do you say we spice things up a little with the next one? Let's swing sort out our problems for a day or two. This is Weasley, signing off. Here's to more, eh?